Pete Jensen joins us, NHL.com. We are talking hockey. Hello, Pierre.
How's it going, Steve? We got a couple of games overseas this Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and then we got the big opening night next week. So hockey's right on the horizon. Penn State football is undefeated. It's a good time of year, Steve.
Yeah, so far so good. All right, so let's get into a couple guys. I will start with the Penguins. They bring the, quote, big three back. And not only that, they're not just back for a season. They all got multi-year contracts. I know you deal a lot with the fantasy numbers and so forth. What kind of numbers can those three put up in your mind?
They're still, when healthy, at the peak of their careers, including Brian Rust, who they brought back as well. Again, entering the offseason, there was Rust, there was Malkin, there was Letang, all as potential UFAs. And I am surprised that they didn't shake it up at least a little bit. But when you really think about it, last year in the playoffs, had Sidney Crosby not been injured, or Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith not been injured in the crease, they still went to overtime in Game 7 against the Rangers. Had they beaten the Rangers, they would have run into the Hurricanes, and that could have been a coin flip. So I guess the window is still open, and that's the belief in the Penguins organization. You can't blame them, can you really? All these years, Crosby's whole career, they've made the playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, it's astonishing what they've put together. They're the only team in recent memory that's won multiple cups that hasn't fallen out and, gone into full-on rebuilding mode at some point. It happened to the Blackhawks, happened to the LA Kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what they've been able to sustain, so they're keeping this train rolling.
All right, let me give you a name of a guy that was phenomenal last year, and I think he's been really good his whole career. 6 straight years the Toronto Maple Leafs have not made the playoffs, but Auston Matthews scored 60 goals. Your thoughts on Auston Matthews and what he can do and the numbers that you see?
Well, yeah, he's the best goal scorer in the game, and that's with all due respect to Alex Ovechkin, who's still firing on all cylinders himself. Alex Ovechkin just had his best point total in a season since 2009-10 with 90-plus last year, but we're still saying he's not the best in the game at the moment because Auston Matthews, the verdict's still out on those Maple Leafs, right? They always fail in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah. It's crazy that they haven't been able to break through with the roster that they have, but each passing year, it feels like they get a little bit worse. Like this year, they're coming into the season with a shaky goalie tandem, Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov, that Penguins fans will know from different memories. But yeah, back to Matthews. He's the best in the game at shots on goal as well, in addition to goals. So he's just, and he plays with Mitch Marner, who's a stud as well. So probably the best duo in the league when you look at guys that play together all the time at even strength and on the power play. So that's why Toronto's always so good in the regular season, because they got the very best in the game from a goal scoring standpoint.
Tampa Bay has gone to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. They won 2 of them. They won 11 consecutive series. East seems deep, Pete, which to me, that's the roadblock to them getting back is the depth of the East. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm curious to see that Atlantic division got a lot tougher from top to bottom this offseason. Obviously, Ottawa, Detroit are teams that are among the most improved, if not at the top of the list in that category from this offseason. Like Ottawa added DeBrincat and Claude Giroux, and Detroit has a great young core and added a new goaltender, Ville Husso and David Perron and Andrew Kopp and a couple other really quality players. So wouldn't be surprised if those two teams, maybe took out a team like the Maple Leafs or the Bruins, but the Lightning will still rise to the top, at least in the regular season and early on in the playoffs. It's just a matter of can a team, maybe like Florida that now has Matthew Tkachuk, if they run into each other for the 3rd straight year, could maybe there be a different layer to the Panthers and they knock off the Lightning? And then when they get to the Metro bracket, there's going to be a strong team on that side. There's going to be either the Penguins or the Rangers, who got there last year and gave the Lightning a big fight. And then the Hurricanes, who I'm picking to win the Stanley Cup because they added Brent Burns, Max Pacioretty. They got a great team as well. Feels like the Hurricanes are overdue to make the Cup final. So maybe this is the year where the reign of the Tampa Bay Lightning ends, at least in the Eastern Conference.
That's sacrilege. You can't pick the Carolina Hurricanes, the former Hartford Whalers, my group. You can't do that, and I'm sorry. They abandoned Hartford. You can't pick the Canes. You can't do it. All right. Johnny Gaudreau has left Calgary. He's now with Columbus. You mentioned Matthew Tkachuk going down to Florida. So each one gets a big addition. But Calgary still looks good. Why?
Calgary might be better than those two other teams, too, even though they lost their two best players in Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. They added Jonathan Huberdeau, who led the league in assists, carrying his own line. He played separate from Barkov at even strength, which is amazing, really, to move away from an elite player and take your game to a new level. So that's what Huberdeau did. They added Mackenzie Weegar in Florida, who's a stout defensive defenseman and also one of the best at even strength in the whole league. And then Nazem Kadri, they added from the Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. They signed him to a big money deal, and that kind of addresses their number 2 center spot, which has been a weakness in recent years. So even though they lost Gaudreau and Tkachuk, they got better at number 2 center, and they got better on defense. So, and they still have Huberdeau, who's going to elevate the players around him. So really, as much as anybody's hyping up the Avalanche to repeat, or the Edmonton Oilers with their acquisition of a real goaltender and Jack Campbell, like everybody's sleeping on the Calgary Flames, I feel.
Yeah, Edmonton got Jack Campbell, I think, from Toronto, if I recall.
Right.
And
maybe it would be another one of those guys like Kadri, like Kessel, right, like Zach Hyman, that leaves Toronto and then excels somewhere else.
Right.
Seems to be a trend.
Exactly. And look, they've still got McDavid, and they've got a deep. Well, I mean, they are a 3-line team, Edmonton. What do you think of them?
Oh, definitely. And they're going to integrate a new rookie, Dylan Holloway.
Yeah.
He's been a stud in the preseason so far. So the rich get richer in terms of depth. And, yeah, there's no doubt about it. This is the best team that Edmonton has fielded by far in the McDavid, Leon Draisaitl era. So they got to the conference final last year, got swept away by the Avalanche. They were rolling 40-year-old Mike Smith in net. Now they get an upgrade in net with Jack Campbell. So, and again, with Jack Campbell, he took a lot of heat. He dealt with some injuries in Toronto, but I didn't think he was that bad, especially in the playoffs. Like the one series when they collapsed against Montreal, John Tavares got injured. The team kind of buckled around him. He wasn't that bad statistically. And then last year, they had a chance to finish off the Lightning in the first round.
I know.
And Campbell, I thought, went toe-to-toe with Andrei Vasilevsky, so the team couldn't finish in front of him. What more would you need from your goaltender to keep you in games, you know?
I saved the best for last, and that is the defending Stanley Cup champion, Colorado Avalanche. Nathan MacKinnon's one of the best. Cale Makar is this era's version of Dennis Potvin. I'm not going to say Bobby Orr. I'm sorry, there's only one. Sorry, there's nobody in that category. But when you look at them, I felt like they won the cup and didn't have the best goalkeeper on the planet. What do you look at them? How do you look at them?
Right, and Darcy Kemper, who won the cup with them last year, he's off to the Washington Capitals now, and he was actually really good for them in the regular season, but then he was dealing with an eye injury in the playoffs, and the team save percentage for Colorado was only like 900 or something close to that in the playoffs, and they still won the cup easily. They only had a couple of losses in the whole playoff run. So they now have Alexander Georgiev coming over. He was the backup to Shesterkin with the Rangers, so he's relatively unproven. I still think that talent in Colorado gives them a floor of going to the conference final because they're the best team by far in that Central Division. But once they get there, they're going to have their hands full. I don't know that they're going to repeat. I have them going to the finals just because maybe they would run into an Edmonton or Calgary after they're kind of battered and bruised from playing each other. That's what I'm thinking at least. But I have the Hurricanes over the Avalanche in the finals. But again, the floor for Colorado is to get to the conference finals, so that's pretty damn good. Sure
is. Pete, always a pleasure. We've got, look, I have friends listening at the beach right now, and they're like, "You're talking hockey? Really?" But the season's about to start. So, Pete, thanks so much.
Yeah, we appreciate the coverage, and great to be back on with you, and we'll check in again soon.